It's a movie about a movie. Like, how meta, how great, how fun. These people care so much about tennis. But you obviously do. You can tell. You know. You're both giving off vibes. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Casual. For those who are new here, we are so glad to have you here today. We are back with another monthly reading wrap-up for the month of June. Since it's now July, and that is insane because I feel like this year has gone by so fast. Hope that you guys have had a wonderful first half of the year. If you're new to this channel, hello. We don't ever judge on how many books a person has or has not read. I am currently on disability because of a head injury, so I have more time to read. However, if you have a full-time job, if you have kids, and you read one book, and you read 10 books, and you read 100 books a month, that's great. You're reading, and that's what's important. Part of this was while I was on vacation. Part of it was when I came home. I have been playing more video games right now to try to help, train my brain with my eye movements and whatnot, but it's a slow-going process, but we're working on it. We'll start at the beginning of the month. I go through these in the order with which I read them. So this month was a very heavy library month and digital month because I was, like I said, I was on vacation. So I only have one physical book that I read this month, and it was a new release. So that's why I have the physical copy. First off, I read Burn the Negative by Josh Winning. This was a random pick that I found on Libby, and I had never heard of it before, never heard of anybody talking about it, but I wanted something a little more thrilling. I wanted something that would kind of be a little bit of a horror aspect because I had been reading so many either general fictions or romances in a row, and I wanted something a little darker. This is about our main character who was a child actor, and the movie that they were on, the very last movie that they were on when they were like 7, everybody on the crew and the cast started dying in specific ways that mimicked the movie that they were making called The Guest House. She's the only one left of the main cast. They died in the exact same way that was scripted in the movie. And so everybody claims that the movie was haunted, the production, the film, all of it. Fast forward to like 30 years later, and the rights to that movie got bought by Netflix, and they decided that they wanted to make it into a show, and it all started happening again. So they bring in, she's now a journalist, and they bring her in to write about it, and she gets sucked right back into that world. But this time she decides she's old enough, she's gonna fix it. She's gonna figure it out so nobody else has to die. I thought it was really unique. I thought that it would have made a great movie, which I still think it should. So definitely make this into a movie. It's a movie about a movie. Like, how meta, how great, how fun. I've never read anything by Josh Winning, but I definitely will be again because his writing was just so bingeable and fast-paced and moved so quickly. The progress of the plot was so continuous. There was no dead spot, which I thought was great. Our main character was a smidge unlikable, but when you hear about her parents and her past, then it makes sense. You've gone through it, gal. So I get it. I rated this a 4.5 stars, and I definitely will be looking for more Josh Winning novels in the future. Next, I listened to an audiobook while I was at the beach and then when I got back, and it's called Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose. I love this cover. The VHS, stunning. However, the book, not so stunning. I gave it a 3 stars because I feel like it was very predictable. After coming off of a book that was so not predictable, and then you just go to this one and you're like, oh, it's that guy, isn't it? Oh, she did this thing. Yeah, makes sense. I get that. I called it in the first 5 seconds, and if you know how I read, suspense and horror books, I don't like to do that, but this just kind of snuck up on you. It was just like, oh, it's that guy, huh? Like, I didn't think about it, and it just became very glaringly obvious. And so it was like, It's okay. I've heard mixed reviews about Geneva Rose in general, and so now I'm not sure if she's for me. However, I did like about the audiobook that each character's point of view was voiced by a different voice actor. I think that there should have been more Michael because he had the best voice of them all, but I understand why it was mainly focused on the other sisters, but definitely think it should have been a little bit more balanced instead of it being all about Beth. Is what it is. I think the only Geneva Rose books that I would read from now on are either from the library or from Kindle Unlimited. I will not be paying for them because I'm a little cautious now. Next, I actually got home from vacation, was working on the garden, was doing all that, trying to catch up from when I was gone, and so I was listening to more audiobooks. So I finished the audiobook of Bad Summer People. This book is just... I gave it 4 stars. Let's start there. This book is reality TV at its absolute worst and its absolute best. The storyline was a little bit stilted. Literally everybody on this island sucks big time. They all are horrible people. They're all cheating on their spouses. They have no remorse for any of their actions. They're selfish in the sense of like literally anything that happens has to benefit me. End of story. They're people with too much money and not enough sense. At the very, very beginning of the book, a body is found. And then you don't talk about it the entire rest of the book up until the very end. And you're like, the whole time you're wondering, well, who is it that died? Who is it that killed them? All these people suck, so it literally could be any of them. It could have been a total accident and not had to do with any of them, which I think was a very good, like, twist in that sense of, like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't know what's going to happen to them. The ending was a little lackluster, but, you know, that it is about this group of people that live in New York City during 9 months of the year, and then they go to Fire Island for the summertime, and they leave by, like, Labor Day. So the book is very set up like that, of, like, they're arriving, and you know that the book is going to end when they're leaving to go back to New York City. So the timeline, the pacing is very on point in that regard. So you know what's going to happen kind of along the lines of when it does. So it didn't get a 5-star, but it was so entertaining. And also, I've never cared about tennis ever in my life, other than when I played it in middle school. But they really care about tennis. These people care so much about tennis. But it's pretty good. 4 stars. Would recommend if you want to just have an unhinged wild time. Next was a physical book. Going back to reading. So I read the sequel to When in Rome, which is called Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. This book, I gave a 4.5. I have very specific thoughts. This is about Annie, which is Noah's sister from the first one, from When in Rome, the male main character's little sister. She's the youngest of the bunch. She is the goody two-shoes of them all. And she still lives in that small town and has no plans to leave. And everybody knows what they expect from her. She's everybody's Angel Annie, right? The bodyguard of the pop star from the first one ends up becoming her dating coach to kind of teach her how to date because she's so goody two-shoes that she doesn't even know how to date anybody. They get closer and closer, romance ensues, yada yada. However, they're so opposites. They're very grumpy sunshine, which is very cute. But it's almost like the grumpy sunshine is kind of surface level because it ends up that like he's a big old softie and she is a little bit not as positive as everybody thinks that she is. So I thought that complexity to the characters was really, really good. I related a lot to Annie in the sense of like everybody expects you to be a certain way because you've always been that way. They expect you to be positive. They expect you to be set in your ways, and you've set this precedent that is very stifling. It's a very small box to live in, and I related to that so intensely, and I think that it was really, really good. She doesn't swear, which can get really annoying at the beginning, but then you kind of understand why, and it gets explained, and it adds another layer of complexity. I really, really love this. 4.5. The whole series as a whole, both books have been a 4.5 so far. So I'm just hoping, praying that we just get more of them. honestly. Next, I kind of wanted to get out of the romance genre, and I read Fruit of the Dead by Rachel Lyon. I'm not sure how to say it. This was okay. I gave it a 3.5. I just am not a hot girl smarkle in the sense of like, I need quotation marks to know what's going on. It was very hard to pick apart when people were talking, who they were talking to, who was speaking, or if they were just, you know, thinking things. It was so hard to tell, and it was very dry and stilted and pretentious, but some people really love that. It's just not for me. But I can see the benefit in the story, so that's why I got a 3.5. It's about a wayward girl. She's just turned 18. She doesn't know what she wants to do with her life. She didn't get into college. She was not good at school. She decides to become a camp counselor for her last summer before she has to really figure out how to be an adult. And while she's there, she gets a proposition from one of the campers' parents, who has more money than sin. And he's like, hey, I don't want to take care of my kids until they go to their ex-wife, or until they go to their mother's house, his ex-wife, for the summer. So will you please come to my private island and be the nanny to my children? And she's like, sure, I don't have anything else going on. You're kind of a weird guy, but I don't have any other prospects, so let's just go for it. She has to sign an NDA because he's like Mr. Pharmaceutical, you know, going through the courts and Congress and everything right now for this new pain drug that he's produced that's like supposedly, like, it's kind of understood that it's like a fentanyl type where it was marketed as like this miracle drug for pain, but then it becomes so addictive and horrible for your health that, you know, that kind of thing. So with her signing this NDA, her mother has no clue where she is. She just texts her mom, hey, got a job, see you in September. And it's like the end of July or even June. And she's like, what do you mean? You can't tell me where you are. You're my child. And she's like, I'm 18. I can do whatever I want. It's like, well, no, I need to know where you are. You're my child. So it's a Persephone Demeter retelling, with the pharmaceutical guy being Hades that pulls Persephone away from Demeter. I can see all of the good parts of it, but it just wasn't for me. So 3.5. Next, I got right back into my romance. The next couple of books are all going to be from one series. So first, I read The Romance Book Club by Lyssa Kay Adams. I gave this a 4.5. I thought that the idea was so clever, that the group of dudes that have a book club and they read romance novels as manuals for how to be better men and better in their romantic lives is just so good. I love that. My favorite dynamic of the entire series is not the couples themselves, but it's the book club together. The friendship, the male friendship that you see, you don't ever see. So I loved that. The first is about Thea and Gavin, who are married. He's a professional baseball player, so he's gone all the time. And they have 2 young kids. They got married because she got pregnant like 3 months into them dating. And their marriage is on the rocks. She's completely convinced that this is just divorce. And he is hoping not, but he doesn't know how to fix it. So they dive into a romance novel to learn how, and the book club decides that they want to help him get his wife back. And so you see the journey of doing that. Like I said, 4.5, so good. The next one is called Undercover Bromance by Lyssa Kay Adams. This one I only gave a 4 because it definitely dropped off from the book club aspect. It was, you know, you didn't even have, like, you barely knew what book they were reading. They weren't really involved. There was no, like, back and forth comparison to the novel, like, at all. It was just another romance book, which was it was a good romance, but you took away the, like, charm that the first one had. So it definitely went down in its rating. This is about Liv, which is the female main character's sister from the first one. And one of the other guys from, you know, the book club, Mac. The one who actually started it all. Their romance. But they were going at it from like an enemies to lovers aspect side of things. And it just didn't have the same charm that the first one did, but the romance is cute, so 4 stars. Next is our only physical book of the entire month. So, Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. This book is about Ethan. He was like 10 when he and his best friend Billy went and camped in his backyard in just like a little plastic tent in the 90s. And he wakes up and Billy's gone. There's a cut through the side of the tent. Billy's nowhere to be seen. Is never found. 30 years later, he moves back because he's got to clean out his parents' house from where they moved to Florida. And he never got over that. It definitely defined him as a person, and basically ends up trying to figure out what happened to Billy himself. He starts getting these paranormal events happening. Baseballs will show up in his yard, writing on his notebook, and he just has no way to be able to know who did it or if it was Billy coming back from the grave all those years later. I gave this a 4 stars. I really liked the realistic choices that these people made. Sometimes in books like this, they make just the absolute worst decisions of all time, and you're like, nobody would do that. These people, it's like, yeah, okay, I would do that too. I totally get that. I understand. I thought that the back and forth timelines was really good in the sense of when they were kids to now. I thought it was well paced. I thought that the balance was good. The paranormal, not paranormal dance was danced. And it just wasn't my favorite. I can't really tell you why. It just didn't hook me like the others. But I do love this cover, and I'm glad that I have the book. It just wasn't as show-stopping as some of the other books that he's written. Next to last, we go back to the bromance. Back to the bromance novels. This one is called Crazy Stupid Bromance. It's the 3rd one. And this one got a 4 stars. So we go a little bit more back towards the book club side of things, which is really good. She took that critique well. Like I have anything to do with it. This one is about Alexis. So she's in the 2nd book as like a side character. She's Liv's friend. And then Noah, another one of the bromance guys. They are best friends, and then they want to become lovers. But what got a little grating after a while was them just like completely, oh, she doesn't like me like that. Oh, he doesn't like me like that. But it's like, but you obviously do. You can tell. You know. You're both giving off vibes. You're looking into his eyes. You're looking at his mouth. You want to kiss him. Obviously. Just do it. Like, I don't understand why we're dancing around this so hard. Just do it. So I think that it took them... I didn't understand a lot of what they were thinking in the sense of like they were trying to convince themselves so hard that the other one didn't love them. And I don't know why they did that, why they didn't just go with it, but whatever. They eventually got together, of course, and it was cute, but it just took a little long. The last one in the series so far that's not the Christmas one, I haven't read the Christmas one, I think I'm gonna save it for Christmas time, is called Isn't It Bromantic by Alyssa K. Adams. This is about the Russian. If you've read any of these books, he's throughout all of them. And he is the gentle giant teddy bear professional hockey player who is the most in tune with his emotions of any of them. And I love him, and he's my absolute favorite. And this was my favorite book, I've got to say. He is in an arranged marriage with his best friend from childhood, Elena. And they're both from Russia. And so they got married so they could both come to the United States because he was going to play professional hockey. That way she could kind of come and start over because her childhood wasn't that great. And, you know, study at university in the States and blah, blah, blah. The problem is that once they got here, they kind of split up. She went to college in Chicago and he stayed in Nashville to play hockey. And then they just like didn't ever come back together. He's been carrying a torch for her the whole time. She was convinced that she was this burden on him this whole time. You get to learn a little bit more about her, and so you understand why, but it's kind of annoying at the beginning, but then you definitely warm up to her as this wife character throughout the book. The book starts with him with the Russian getting injured, he like breaks his leg in like a catastrophic way, and so he can't play hockey anymore for the rest of the season, and he needs somebody to take care of him. So she comes back from Chicago to Nashville to stay with him and to take care of him. However, it's like everybody around him is so protective of him because they love him so much that they see her as like a threat to his mental state. And so she sees herself as that burden, like I said. And it just kind of is a journey of her trying to figure out if she's like worth the risk. And he's trying to figure out if he should pursue her, if they could have a real marriage, that kind of thing. I think that this is the most mature of them all, and it has the most realistic characters in the sense of like I saw both sides for what it was, and I understood both sides, and I think that the events that happen are great, that that conflict makes total sense, and it's just so good. The only things is that they cause their own conflicts a little bit too often, so that's why it went from a 5-star to a 4.5, but it's still so good. Chef's kiss to this whole series. I hope the Christmas one's good too, but if you're really wanting a romance novel series that really digs into each character and keeps them around, like all of the characters are in all of the books, so they definitely have influence in each other's stories, which I thought is really good. It's not like, okay, this couple's over, we forget that they exist. This couple's over, they're gone to us, dead to us. I love the fact that they're all still friends. And they even introduce new characters like Elena in the 4th one, and then she becomes part of their friends. But, I mean, it's a little bit slow going, but she does. So now that I've talked ad nauseum about all of these books, I hope that you guys had a wonderful reading month, even if it was just one. I hope that the quality of the books that you're reading is entertaining enough for you this month. I know it's summertime, we go to the pool, we try to not die of heat stroke, but let me know down in the comments what you guys have read this month, what you guys are planning to read next month. I don't think I'm going to be doing a TBR video because A, it's already the 3rd, B, I think I read more if I mood read, and it's just more interesting to me that way. I can just like go with whatever I want to go with instead of feeling like I have to go to this specific thing every time. We'll see. I might bring the TBRs back in the future. Just depends. Let me know down in the comments if you'd like to see them again. I love you all. Stay safe out there. Support your local library, and happy reading.